What's up, everyone? My name is Tyler. You are watching Mom's Basement MMA. My next guest, Liam Brewster, joins me right now ahead of his pro debut at Eternal MMA 86. Liam, I apologize for our recording screwing up, so we're going to do this all over again, man. I apologize for that, but welcome back. Pleasure to have you back on the program. It's been about a year. Glad we could catch up.
Yeah, likewise, Tyler. Yeah, it's been over a year since our last catch-up, so been really looking forward to it. So, how are you, man?
I am doing it fantastic now that we have the technology working. That's always a good thing. Liam, first things first with you. You have been competing in mixed martial arts for a number of years, going back to 2019, and you've really cut your teeth in the amateur circuit. You're talking about fighting for free for many years, and I know you've had a lot of fun doing so, but what prompted you to go enter the professional ranks at this point in time?
I look at it this way: it's like I've done everything that I said I wanted to do in the amateur career. In my amateur career, I've won local titles. I've fought multiple weight classes. I've got great experience, and I'm 30 years old this year now. So it's like I haven't got much time left in the sport. I've relatively got around 5 years left, 5 6 years left, and it's like if there's ever a chance and an opportunity to go to the UFC, PFL, or Bellator, now's my opportunity to go for it and get onto the pro rankings here in Australia.
In your case, how did you know that you were ready for the next level of competition?
The biggest thing I feel is like you got to be okay to take your losses and learn from them, and also have that ring IQ or cage ring IQ when you're in there, because when you're an amateur, you're only just figuring out like how to deal with your adrenaline dump and how you're dealing with the pressure of fighting in a crowd, and how you feel having someone on the other side of the cage wanting to beat the holy shit out of you. You've got to be able to deal with all that. And then when you turn professional, that's at the highest level. So there's so much more accountability that you've got to take into consideration.
Liam, you competed as an amateur 7 bouts, and over the course of that 7-bout amateur career, is there one fight in particular that you look back on, whether it be a loss or a win, but is there one where you felt like that's the fight where I felt that I learned the most about myself as a fighter throughout your resume here?
Oh yeah, for sure. I would say my last fight against Wyatt Fraser over at in Perth on Eternal. Even though I didn't win, even though I felt like I won the fight, that was probably the biggest learning curve for me. Is like I was able to learn so much, like where my holes in my game were, where I need to work on, where my strengths are, and things like that. And it's like progressing further, you know?
The whole idea of being away from competition for a prolonged amount of time, like that doesn't really compute with the vibe of your gym. Like you guys would be out there fighting every week if you possibly could. So for you specifically, Liam, like how tough was it being away from competition for a prolonged amount of time?
The reason why I stepped away for so long, I needed to work on my mental health. Like I needed to take a step away from the fight game because I was just so burnt out. Like I kept myself so busy and so active in the sport, and also doing my job, as you well know, being a mechanic in the mines. I never had time to just sit and process things like any other person would. Like most of the guys in my gym, they work at home. They get to have that opportunity where they can stay at home and do things like that. And for me, it was 10 times harder. And I had a big sit down conversation with my coaches, my manager, and my family. And I just said, hey, this is the best thing for me right now. I need to put my career in fighting on hold and do what's best for me mentally. Because I was at a very low point in my life. Like after my last fight and getting robbed the way that I did, people might not see that I got robbed. Some people might see that I did. It's like I needed to work on myself. I needed to get my mind fixed. I needed to work on the problems that were bringing me down as a person, and take that extra time to learn from my mistakes and also work on the things that were bringing me down. I'm always putting on a smile for everybody, but mental health is the biggest killer for people. It's not People are afraid to speak up and go and get help. But my biggest thing to anyone that I've learned in this journey is it's okay to ask for help and speak up about it.
At what point did you feel like you were at a point, Liam, where you're like, my mentals are clicked in. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to get a crack back at this. What point did you get back on the horse, so to speak?
After 8 months of being away, like I traveled around Australia, as I said to you before, like taking some time for myself to really focus on and actually falling in love with the sport. Because at that point where I said I needed help, I didn't love the sport anymore. Like I used it to shell and basically shield myself from dealing with everyday problems and my mental health. And I needed to step away to focus and get that love and that drive back from the sport. But I have a big, for me getting back into it, I thank my coach Ryan Dunstan and also my good friend Jake Piper. They sat me down, we had a really good conversation, and like this, it's who I am. This is my identity as fighting. I've always had a love for combat sports. And I know that when I'm in the gym, I'm my happiest person. But coming to myself and feeling that I need the sport back, I love this sport. It made me want to get back into the gym, made me want to chase my dreams again and have that desire to get back into the cage, or whether it be in a cage or in a boxing ring, or helping my teammates achieve their dreams.
Talked about your last fight against Frazier. That was a disappointing result for you. I know that wasn't something that is easy to talk about, but also at the same point, at what point were you able to go back, reflect on that fight, look at it, and maybe like take away some positives? Like, you know what? We may not have gotten the result, but the silver lining is, I was able to execute my game plan. I was able to do X, Y, and Z. Like, were there certain discernible things that you see when you go back to that Eternal MMA 73 bout that you look at and you're like, you know what? I'm really happy about these particular things about that.
Yeah, I look back at my creativity when I set up my spinning attacks. That was one thing that everyone in my gym credits me on, that because of my creativity. Even my coach says like whenever I throw something crazy like that, it always blows him away, and also my teammates in that. But also, I guess in my grappling, I was very, very more impressed with my grappling because that was always my biggest weakness earlier in my career. And just I take the biggest wins, like I was put in positions where I felt uncomfortable, and it's like, okay, I've worked this. And the biggest reward is I was able to get out of those positions, and everything that me and my coaches we worked on and practiced were working. So that was the biggest thing that I took away from that performance. Obviously, I felt like I won the fight, but at the end of the day, as I said, with an amateur career, it's a lesson, not a loss.
At what point do you like sit down with your coaches, your teammates, management, and you're like, these are like the goals, these are the things that we want to hit on in 2024? There's certain goals that you're aspiring to achieve in 2024?
Yeah, my biggest goal is getting back into the cage after such a long absence. And we were looking at who we can set ourselves up for. When Mitch Holden's name was presented, I looked, okay, he's a kickboxer, what I've sort of been wanting for, to get back in, to get that feel. He fought a previous opponent of mine in Tom Pratt, and we've really watched that fight between him and Pratt, watched my fight against Pratt, and we've seen holes where we can execute our game plan and where we're going to win this fight. I'm not going to give away too many details, but we've worked really, really hard. I've had great guys coming in and training with me, like Jake Piper, my pad holder, Dunstan, setting up the good combinations and what attacks we're going to use to break this guy down. And also a big shout out to my jiu-jitsu coach, Koshi, at our gym, who's been really, really helping me on my ground game, and also all the guys that I'm sparring with and things like that. But my biggest goal in the next 2 years is I want that eternal Australian title. I want to fight the top guys that I can get that are going to get me to that situation,
Liam, I've seen most of your fights, and if I had to describe you, I would say you're somebody who's very strong, very powerful, and very, very fast. Like how you move, the combinations you throw. You're a very dangerous person in the cage. And I look at this, and if I'm Mitchell Holden and I'm looking across the cage from you, guess what we're not doing? At least this would be my game plan. Be like, we are going to spam takedowns on this guy. I am not standing. I'm not going to get cracked by this guy. I know that he throws with a lot of heat. I'm sure you're preparing for not only Holden, but I would imagine a lot of opponents have probably approached you in a manner similar to that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like Holden will still want to stand and bang because he is taller than me. He has got range on me, but we're working that coming in and keeping that forward pressure on, because I don't take a back step to anybody. Even if I get cracked with a good 1-2 or anything, I'll still keep coming forward every step, no matter what. I don't back off. And if I got to take a good 1-2 shot to get off a knockout shot, I'm more than happy to do it.
That's why you're a fan favorite. That's why I love watching you fight. You are very, very aggressive. Maybe the Australian zombie. Maybe we call you that.
The Australian zombie, hey?
Hey, I like it.
I like that.
I think we need another zombie. You might as well be the new zombie. So, Liam,
yeah. Well, hey, the Korean zombie's retired, so Liam the zombie. You never know.
The Australian zombie. I think we have something to potentially work with here. Eternal MMA 86. Now we're not fighting in Western Australia. Now you'll be fighting a little bit closer to home. A pro debut. I'm sure there's going to be a ton of people, a ton of support packing the stands to specifically watch you perform. Like, how excited are you to go out there and perform, a little bit closer to home this time as opposed to fighting on the other end of the country?
Well, the thing is, fighting on the other side of the country or fighting at home, there's no difference for me. It's like I'm going in there to do a job. Like I don't get nervous anymore. Like that's the thing is like I go through situations in the gym where I get more anxiety in the gym than I do actually on fight night. My demeanor is that. But it is great knowing that I get to fight at home. I get to sleep in my own bed straight after a fight. I don't have to stress so much with the weight cut. I don't have to worry about traveling arrangements and things like that. It's less pressure and less stress. I just can't wait to get back into that cage and show everybody what I've been working on, all my new skill sets and everything. So it's going to be a good night.
And it's a pro bout. We're talking about 5-minute rounds. We're talking about fighting unchained. All the things that you've been probably dreaming of doing for a long time, particularly elbowing somebody in the face. I'm sure that's something you really, really, really want to do. Now you can. And like, how excited are you at this entire prospect of longer rounds and more weapons at your disposal?
Yeah, I'm more looking forward to spinning back elbows, if you know what I mean. So, but yeah, it's like I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's going to be a lot different. The cardio is a lot different. The pressure and the dip and all that sort of thing, it's a different aspect. But it's no different to what we're training in the gym. Like we're training 5-minute rounds anyways. And the guys that I'm sparring, like David Martinez, Jake Piper, Sean Gauchi, and some of the other guys, I've also had the privilege of going down to Compton and training with the guys like Tom Nolan, Dob Marfan, and the guys there. And that's even more chaotic, So for the last 8 months, I've been prepping myself for 5-minute rounds and championship rounds, because that's what's going to be happening.
June 22nd, that is fight night for you against a game opponent, Mitchell Holden. I know you're really excited, and we don't want to give anything away, but I will ask, like, when you just kind of broadly size yourself up against Holden and you really think about this matchup, where do you feel like you have the biggest advantage over him, and how do you see this fight playing out on the 22nd of June?
How I sort of see it, I'm not underestimating him. He's probably learned a lot from his last fight against Tom Pratt. I know he's probably going to come in, be nice, calm and collective. He's going to try and set his range and try and get some shots on me. But the thing is, I'm going to keep pressuring him, and he's not going to be able to keep coming forward, and that's what's going to disrupt him. I'm going to get in mid-range, and I'm just going to unload on him. If I don't finish him in the first round, I'm going to finish him in the second, because then he's not going to be able to handle my creativity. And he hasn't fought someone who's got knockout power like me.
But do you have like a hit list, names of lightweights that you look at? You're like, this guy, and this guy, these three guys.
Yeah, I do. I'm glad you asked me that, because realistically, I see once I finish Mitch or fight Mitch, my goal is I would like to get the rematch with Tom Pratt, because it was a very competitive fight. It was very close. I've actually spoken to him before, and I said, hey, I would love to do it again. Even if it's in the pros, let's do it again. But I'm dead set I would love to get that Josh Kuhn fight at some point soon. That would be two guys that are just going to come forward, stand and bang, that are not going to back off one another, and someone's going to go. It's going to be bloody. It's going to be a war, and I see that as the BMF fight of Australian MMA right there.
Yeah, that guy is a psychopath. And for people who don't know who Liam's referring to, go on Fight Pass, punch in his name, watch some of his fights, and you will agree. And watch Liam while you're at it too, because man, I don't know if I'm ready for that one. I might need a Xanax or 3 before I watch that fight, because
I think you need to come to Australia for that fight, if I must say, Tyler.
Hey, there we go. I think we can make something like that happen. I'll sleep on your couch and we're good to go. Liam,
yeah, 100%, man.
I appreciate you showing up to the program. It's always a pleasure. Who do we need to thank? Are there any sponsors that you would like to talk about before I let you go today?
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone that's been a part of my journey, all my team, all my family, all my management, my coaches. Big shout out to Ryan Dunstan. Like, that man gives me more grief than anything, but I know he's like a father figure to me, and I can't thank him enough for everything he does for me. He's put up with me for nearly 8 years now, so I give all my credit to my head coach, Ryan Dunstan.
And ladies and gentlemen, make sure you tune in UFC Fight Pass, whether you're in Australia, in the USA, in Canada, wherever you are not going to want to miss Liam fight. A very, very violent man in the cage. He'll put on a good show for you. Liam, thank you so much, sir. Always a pleasure. And June 22nd, best of skill.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it.